Do you know what every capsule wardrobe needs? Accessories. And what kind of accessory does a capsule wardrobe need? Keep watching and I'm going to show you how to make that. Hello and welcome to the next video and Killer Kitsch Lizzie. Weird little place where I like to knit, sew, do other crafty things, and make accessories to go with capsule wardrobes. So you've probably seen this already. I made this a while ago actually. I figured out a pattern to make a little handbag to go with another dress and bolero that I made. Or actually, did I make a bolero? A dress. I made a dress actually. And although I would like to get more of this fabric so I can make a matching bolero because this fabric is very cute. Anyway, this bag is going to be the accessory that I'm going to teach you how to make to go with your capsule wardrobe, and I'm going to use leftovers from either, hopefully I have enough of the floral left. If not, I'll use the pink, hoping one or the other is enough left over, or if I have enough floral and enough pink, I'll line it with the pink. So I'm going to show you how to self-draft this as opposed to giving you a template, because you can make it this small, you know, or you could make it bigger. If you wanted to even turn this into sort of like a project bag or something, you could make a bigger version of this, right? And the purse is fully lined, and as part of the tutorial, I'm going to show you how to make a double pocket that it's going to be one piece of fabric, or sorry, two pieces of fabric, but because you're going to line the pocket too, but it's going to start here and end on the other side on the inside, so you have two pockets in there, and it's just less sewing. And so what you're going to need for this is you're going to need, you know, shell fabric, lining fabric, and some kind of handles. I have a lot of these bamboo handles. I also have a bunch of the round plastic handles, or they might be resin actually. I wish they were wood, but I don't have any wood ones, unfortunately. That's just my preference, but yeah, so you're gonna need some kind of two handles. And it's up to you. I don't have a snap in this just because it gathers around the bottom of the handle. But if you want it to be closed, you could also put like a tab with a snap at the front. But this is enough to carry. Like, I can get my phone, keys, glasses, whatever other bits I need, I can get them all in here. Again, if you want bigger, make a bigger one. So yeah, that's really all I need to tell you. Also the supplies you're going to need to draft the pattern out. You're going to need pencil, paper, measuring tape, or ruler, something like that, and a straight edge, something like again, a ruler would work. I use a T-square, but that's just me. Anyway, so you don't need a lot of supplies for this, and like to draft the pattern pieces, and then again, you're going to need shell fabric, lining fabric, handle, some elastic, and then the thread you're using. So, and a hand needle, because you are going to do some hand stitching on the inside. Okay, on to the tutorial. Well, hello. I know, it's another tutorial. However, this is a bonus, as I mentioned. I think I mentioned in the opening. I wanted to show you how to make a matching purse to go with all the beautiful outfits you've just made. Or any outfit, actually. And the beauty of this purse is you can do it in multiple sizes. You don't have to do the sizes I'm doing. You can make your own sizes up, but I'll talk more about that in a moment. And first I'm going to start off with, I call this the Agatha bag. And I've named it after Agatha Christie and her amazing, amazing knitting bags. However, I didn't want this just to be a knitting bag. I wanted to do multi-sizes. So in fact, it can be used for a purse. It can be used for a beach bag, a knitting bag, whatever kind of bag, shopping bag if you want. If you want to be a little fancier, up to you. So that is also, you know, I wanted to go with my Tiki Capsule Wardrobe that I worked really hard on. I wanted to have a couple of matching bags to do that. And I'm just going to show you, this is the smaller version. I'm just going to put it on top of the supplies. I'll talk about the supplies in a minute. This is the smaller version. Oh, the handle got moved around a bit there. This is the smaller version of the bag. This was my test bag. And I do have a dress that goes with this. At some point I'll do photos with me and the dress that matches this. This is my test bag, and in testing it, I realized the one thing that was missing is a way to close the top. Because when you do put it down, it does not stay closed, right? Even if you do that with a whole bunch of stuff in it, potentially stuff could fall out. So the one thing that is missing from this design is a tab. So I have incorporated that into the instructions on what I'm about to show you. So this is super cute, tiny, you know, it's on the wrist or, you know, the arm, however you would carry your vintage purses. You can do, now I only have these D-shaped handle, but you can easily do round plastic, bamboo, lucite, whatever handle, hard handles that you have. But just make sure that the handle is big enough that you can put your, you know, if you want to put your arm through it, or that you can hold on to it. And also, we'll get to this in a minute, but wide enough that you could put your purse on it, the fabric. I'll get to that in a minute. But let's talk about supplies so you can get everything you need ready. So you don't have to draw the pattern pieces out. You can literally just measure off with, oh, I didn't bring it with me, but just use tailor's chalk and mark your fabric, which I mean, in the end is what I did. I have drawn the pattern pieces out on the drafting paper, just more as a visual aid to show you. But that said, if you want to make tissue pattern pieces, like, I mean, for the tab, I did actually have to, it was easier for me to, because now this is because I did a curved end. If you're just doing a square or a rectangular, like a triangle at the end, you can just, again, you can just draw it out with with chalk. You don't have to do the tissue pattern piece if you don't want to. But some of the supplies you are going to need is you're going to need a round or D-shaped handle that is, again, wide enough to fit your purse, because you're going to be sewing it onto this. You're going to need fabric. You probably recognize this from previous videos. Fabric for your outer layer, the outer shell, which I will most likely referring it to as. You're going to need fabric. Actually, let me move that there because beige on beige doesn't show up very well. Lining fabric, pocket fabric, and fabric to do your tab. Now, personally myself, I did not, because I want a softer bag, but if you want a stiffer bag, please feel free to use interfacing. And if you're going to use interfacing, put the interfacing on the lining, on what's going to be the underside of the lining. And I say that because the outer shell fabric has to fold over. It has to be able to fold over your handle, and if you put interfacing at the top part of the outer shell fabric, it's going to make it hard to fold it over because there is going to be some hand stitching involved. And then, I'm just trying to get stuff out of the way here, you're going to need a ruler, a straight edge, or use your ruler as a straight edge, up to you. You're going to need elastic. I personally would use the, hopefully this is going to show up, a thinner elastic. You can also use a slightly wider elastic. See the differences there. This is just going to be easier to manage to get through because you're going to be making a channel to put the elastic through on either side of the bag. We'll get to that eventually. Some sort of tool. I have this thing, I use it for threading elastic. Safety pin works too. You know, fabric scissors, of course, to cut things out. If you are, now you don't have to do a tab. If you're doing like a huge beach bag or knitting bag or whatever, you might not want a tab. But if you're doing it as a purse to be going out with, you're going to want a tab. And you can either do snaps if you want, or, you know, get yourself some funky buttons. I might do buttons. I'm still deciding. When I get to the tab, I'll decide if I'm going to do a snap or buttons. Yeah. Or I might do snaps and sew a button on top for aesthetics. I don't know yet. That will happen when I get there. Just going to look at my list. Oh, you'll need a needle for hand stitching. You're also going to need, you know, and the thread to match. It's best to use the matching thread for hand stitching. And I think that's it. Yep, that is all the stuff you're going to need. Get a few things out of the way here. Oh, and fabric chalk. If you're going to be drawing your pattern pieces out, you'll need, you know, pencil. Now, I did 3 sizes for myself. So I've already, the one I just showed you is the small size. Let me just get that back again. So that is the small size. You can see by the, putting my hands over top, how big that is. The one I'm going to be making today is the medium size, which I have drawn out here already. And then there's a large size. And again, you could, if you want to do a project or knitting bag, you might want to change the shape of the bag slightly. Like, instead of having it more, you know, because the fabric's going to be, well, I mean, it looks like it's wider this way. If you're going to do a knitting bag or a project bag, you're going to want the fabric to come wider this way. But for the purse, we are making the fabric, the difference between the width and the height is like 1/2 inch or something like that. So, but yeah, you could play around with the size. These are just the sizes I'm suggesting. So the small size, this is for the exterior, is 18.5 wide by 19 high. And the lining is 16 wide by 16.5 high. The medium size is 23.5 wide by 24 high, and the lining is 18.25 inches. Oh, these are all inches, by the way. Wide by 19 inches high. And then if you do a large bag, it's going to be 28 wide by 28.5 high, and the lining will be 25.5 wide by 26 high. Not to worry, you don't have to remember any of this. I am going to put a PDF of the instructions over on Patreon, as I always do. So the 4 things you're going to be drawing or cutting out is going to be, again, the exterior shell, the lining, the pocket, and the tab. Now I know when you're looking at the tab, you're thinking, oh wow, that looks really wide. It's not going to be because there is a 1/2 inch. Where is it? There's a 1/2 inch seam allowance all the way around. Hold on, door. So it's actually not going to be as wide as it looks in the picture. And again, you can do your tab longer, you can do it wider, you can do it narrower, it's up to you. So what I did is I just I drew out the exterior piece, and then from there which is this outside of here, the outer part here, you can see how big it is, and then I traced the lining within it. So you can see the lining markings from the marker. I also drew out the pocket. And this is going to be a double pocket, so what you're going to do is with the pocket, when we get to the sewing part, you're going to like hem it all around. Then you're going to sew it across the middle. Like you're going to center it in the middle of your, again, I'll show you in a minute, but you'll center it in the middle. Actually, I have visual aids. Why don't I use those instead? Anyways, and then the tab. So let me get my visual aids, and it will be easier to show you what I'm talking about. So, your fabric, and that is going to be that is the exterior. When you cut this out, something to remember is the width is going to be shorter, the height is going to be longer by about 1/2 inch. That also goes for the lining. And then, as I said, the pocket, you're going to like hem it all around, and then you're going to center it on the lining before you sew the lining to the exterior fabric, and then you're going to sew it across the middle. I would do it twice just to secure it, and then when your bag is closed, you have a double pocket. Okay, so those are all the things you're going to need. Okay, so the first thing is we're going to do, step number 1 is we're going to hem the pocket, and then step number 2 is you're going to center the pocket piece on the lining, and you're going to secure it. So let's go do that, and then we'll be right back. I'm sorry, I'm just not going to be able to show you me at the sewing machine. I have to work on that setup. It is really dark in the room that I sew in. A little too dark, and I can't really sew on this table because it's not sturdy enough. It vibrates as I'm sewing, so I am working on how to show myself at the sewing machine. But for now, what we'll do is, and this is such an easy thing to sew, I'm just gonna tell you the step, do it, tell you the next step, do it, and just show it to you as I'm going, the progress, as opposed to me at the machine. Because you all know what it looks like at a sewing machine. I don't think you need to see me constantly doing the stitches. So, all right, so what we're going to do is we're going to take our pocket piece and our lining piece, and we're going to hem this and then sew this to this, and then I will be right back. Oh, hopefully you can see this okay. What I did was, so the pocket is sewn to the middle of the lining. And what I did to help assist me in lining up the pocket with the middle was I folded the lining and the pocket in half, and I ironed to create a crease. And then I lined up the two creases in the middle. And then I measured either side to make sure they were even as well. And that way you are ensured that it is centered properly within the lining. And I did 2 lines of stitching on either side of that crease just to, give it a little bit more stability if you're putting heavier things into the pocket. I also, at each corner, I just backstitched a few times just to make that a little more secure. And the pocket has a 1/2 inch seam allowance, but what I did was I took the fabric and I ironed out the 1/2 inch seam allowance all around, and then I folded it under and ironed it again so that it was easier to hem it. And then what I did to sew the pocket on is I just followed that the stitches from where I hemmed it. Okay, so that is your pocket on the lining piece. So next what we're going to be doing is we're going to be sewing the lining to the outer shell, and we're only going to be sewing the sides. And that'll make sense in a minute. So what you're going to do is you're going to sew the right sides together. The right side, this is the right side, and this is the right side, so you're going to sew the 2 right sides oops, wrong. You're going to sew the 2 right sides together on the left and right seams. And let's go do that. So this is what it looks like after you've sewn your sides up. I think I mentioned it's 1/2 inch. I'm doing 1/2 inch seam allowance. Do whatever you would normally do. So then what I did after I sewed the lining to the exterior shell fabric is I folded it in and I ironed the seam in towards the lining. Now what you're going to notice is it looks like it's got like it's all bunching up here underneath. That's because the lining is bigger than the shell, the exterior fabric. And going back to the finished other one, this all gathers up here. And once you sew around the handle, everything fits. You'll find that the lining fits with the against the exterior fabric, right? Because all the excess is getting gathered up here, and you're going to be gathering at the side as well. We'll get to that in a minute. So once you've sewn the sides together and then ironed the seam allowance in, turn the fabric right side out. Yeah, and see you've got like all this excess on the sides, right? And then you're going to notice it's still sticking out at the top. Okay, so next what we're going to be doing is we're going to be making the channel for the elastic. I suggest you go with the thinner elastic. So if you do a wider elastic, just make sure your channel is going to be wide enough. And then what I would do myself is, here, let me show you the interior of the bag. So some of the fabric of the exterior of the bag is going to roll in to be part of the channel. Now in this case, this is, it's going to measure this. That's like 1/2 inch. Yep. So what I did was I rolled in the exterior fabric 1/2 inch. I mean, this is probably more than 1/2 inch here, but that's why it's good to take your, have your ruler handy at all times. So what you're going to do is you're going to roll that in my case, 1/2 inch. Yep. And then give this a press, just so that the lining's not folding under weird or anything like that. And then you're just going to stitch just on the lining part. Just come in like a smidge onto the lining and stitch it down for the channel. And you're going to do that on both sides. So let's do that and come right back. Okay, so at the beginning I mentioned you need elastic and something to thread it through. The total amount of elastic you're going to need for the medium-sized bag is 24 inches divided in 2, so you're going to have 12 inches for either side. And what you're going to do is you're going to, whatever you're using, in my case, I don't even think what this gadget's called. It actually came with my little knitting box with all the, you know, the little gadgets you need for knitting. You can buy these individually. I don't even know what it's called, to be honest. Anyways, and what you do is you, it has little feet, grippy feet things at the end. You press it down on the elastic, or whatever it is you're threading through. And there's like this little round piece, and you just push it to secure it. So the elastic is, just be careful when you're doing that too, because I actually have cut myself on this thing because I was pushing so hard. Anyways, yeah, and then it secures the elastic, right? So when you thread it through, I know if you're doing a tighter channel for an elastic, this might be a wee bit too wide. So, you know, safety pins become your friend. Although I have to say that when I've used safety pins before, they come undone sometimes when you're halfway through. And that can be really annoying. Anyway, so what we're doing is you're going to, at the top, just push it through a bit. And then just so that you have enough in there. Then you're going to take the other end and you're going to secure it. Now you can sew it to secure it, or and make sure it's straight. Or in my case, I'm just going to pin it, and then I'll do all the sewing later. And just make sure you secure it really well, so it's not going to come off. And what I like to do for that is I like to do like a cross. I'm sure just the one pin is more than enough, but. And then what you're going to do now is you're just going to, again, try to make sure it's straight when you're doing this. Pull it all the way through. So you get to the other end. Oh, that thing got twisted. There we go. I mean, to be honest, it's all gathered, so if it gets twisted, it's not as big of a deal as if it was your a garment like that you're wearing. And then just pull this through here. And then take the other end, and you're going to want to secure it at the top end here. And do it before you take your little thrutter thing off, because if you don't and you lose your elastic, like you lose your grip on your elastic, it's gonna disappear into the channel. Though this is a wide, oops, going through the fabric. This is a wide enough channel, it's not a big deal, but I've done it before. There, so at least I have one pin there, so I'm just gonna loosen up the attempt to. Sometimes this thing can be stubborn. There we go. It's okay though, that means it has a really good grip on it. Anyways, and then I'm going to just secure it a little bit more here. There we go. So you're going to do that on both sides, and then you're going to secure it in two different places, and I don't know if it's going to show up on here or not very well. Yeah, it sort of might. So you're going to secure it first. Let's smooth that out a bit. At the top here. And then the part between where the lining is, this part here, you want this flat. You don't want it to be gathered here. Sorry, a pin in the way here. You don't want that to be gathered there. And the reason is you're going to be folding over the top of the shell fabric and wrap it around your handle right here. And if this is all bunched up here, it is going to be really hard for you to wrap it around and then hand sew it in place. So I highly recommend that you make sure that when you're securing this elastic, you secure it at the top by sewing. And then once you've done that, fold over the fabric, this top fabric. Let me pull this pin out just a little bit because it's making me hurt. Give me a hard time. Okay. So what you're going to do is sew it up here, right? And then fold this over and secure it again where the lining meets the not meets, but where like you see the shell fabric starting to show beyond the lining. Just at the lining, just stitch it across there to secure that in place. So we're going to do that on both sides. And then what I recommend we do while we're at the sewing machine, since we're already there, just to save some time, is we're now going to hem either end of the top of the purses. And do the same as you do with the lining. It's going to be, it is actually 1/2 inch seam allowance. However, you're going to fold that again and you're going to get yourself a, oh, sorry, apologies. The top is going to be a 1/4 inch seam allowance. So you're going to fold it up 1/4 inch. So the tops are not 1/2 inch. The top part of this bag are going to be 1/4 inch. So, you know, fold it over 1/4 inch and then sew it. So the steps, just to repeat what we're doing right now, is we're going to thread the elastic through the sides. You're going to secure the elastic in two places, at the top and then where the lining, the top of the lining is, both ends, both sides. And while we're at the machine, hem the tops of your purse, top, 1/4 inch hem, and then we'll come right back. We have now secured all the elastic down and hemmed the tops of the purse. Now, Don't worry about these raw, there's some raw edges here still. Don't worry about that, because what's going to happen is the next step is we're going to fold the purse handle around, we're going to fold this around the purse handle, and those raw edges are not going to show at all. Now, you're going to do some hand stitching here, because I made the attempt for this video, well, prior to this video, I did try to pin this in place and then sew it with the machine, and it was literally impossible to do. There's just no way. You're going to break your machine if you do, so don't do that. And I kind of went ahead and cheated a little bit, and I sewed up the tab. So what you're doing with the tab is, I don't know if you can see that or not. Let's flip this around. Pretend the tissue paper is the tab. What you're going to do is with the tab, whatever end you're going to have, I curved mine slightly, though it doesn't really, I wanted my corners to be curved, so I did that. And, or you could just do square, or you could do like, have it pointed, do a scallop, do whatever you want. So what you're going to do is you're going to sew in both sides in the top at 1/2 inch seam allowance. And then when those are done, you're going to turn it inside, so turn it so that the right sides are out, and then you're going to fold in the open end, as I did here, and then you're going to just close it up. Because what you're going to do is, after you have, and I'm going to show you here in a moment, but after you have hand sewn on the strap, or sorry, the handle, you're going to put the tab on. Now, I know it kind of seems awkward that you're going to do that. However, if you try to put the tab on before, you might not have it long enough on one end. What you could do, and I think this is what I'm going to do, is I'm going to pin my handle on, both handles. I'm not going to sew them up yet. I'm going to pin both of them on, and I'm going to mark, and then I'm going to, like, you know, put the tab on, and I'm going to mark it with chalk or something, or a pin or something, and then I'm going to go and sew it. And then I'm going to come back and finish the hand, and then I'll put do the handles. It's just that if you try to do it without positioning the handles first, the tab might come up too short on the side that you're going to be clipping it or snapping it or buttoning it or whatever. It's a bit of finagling, I get, but in the end it's worth that little bit of extra work. Okay, so we're going to now, we need to hem the top down on top of the lining, because we don't want the lining pulling down. Even though you're going to hand stitch the handle to the around it is going to be hand stitched, you know, the outer fabric to the handle, or sorry, to the handle, to the lining. There's a chance it might pull down a bit. So what I suggest you do, and it's going to be a bit finicky, what I suggest you do is baste. You can do it by hand if you want, if it's easier, but baste the lining, like line it up and pin it in place. And I know it's, you know, there is more fabric, more of the outer fabric than the lining fabric. Just do your best. You can hand baste it, machine baste it, whatever you want to do. And yeah, it's going to be, you know, you're going to be moving fabric out of the way to get this pinned down. And then it's just going to keep it from, like, ripping apart from the hand stitching later if you're putting heavy things in here. And then after you've sewn that, right, you've secured that down, then you're going to pull all that fabric in through that handle, and you're going to, pin it carefully along the inside of your purse and sew it down. And what I suggest you do for that is put a gathering stitch at the top, gather it up, and then it'll help you manipulate it around the handle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish pinning this, and then I'm going to baste the lining to the outer shell, and I'm going to put some gathering stitches in here to help me gather it up and pin it down for hand stitching. Because as you'll see for the hand stitching, it's not perfectly even along there, right? You're hand stitching down the best you can. Because it is going to be gathered up in the end. All right, so let's go do that next. So once you have secured the, actually let me open this back up here. I gathered it up, but let me just, it might be easier to see if I do this. So once you have basted the lining down to the outer shell fabric, as I said, you're going to put gathering stitches here at the top. And then you're going to, and the only way, you don't have to do this. I do the gathering stitches because for me, it just makes it easier, and you'll see in a second, to manipulate the fabric around the handle, whether it be a round one or a square one. So just gather up the stitches so that they're, fairly even, right? And then just like straighten the ruffles out a bit so that they're not folding under. You are going to have to manage your gathering stitches, and then once you sew this all down, it's all secured by hand, then you can pull those out. But don't pull them out before you've hand sewn this down, because if you have to do any rearranging, you don't want to have, I mean, you can, you'll just have to put the gathering stitches back in again. But so what I do, let me pull some on these threads of the way, is I pin down the ends first so that they're going to match, right? Because if you start in the middle and start hand stitching out, your sides might not match. So pin them down and just make sure that the top of where you've hemmed the fabric, the outer shell fabric, is covering the lining at least by 1/4 of an inch, because you don't want that raw edge showing later. And it's, whoops, see, my gathering stitches are coming out a bit there. It does take a little you got to play around with it a little bit, right? Okay, and then just do the same on the other end. Okay. And then just sort of move the fabric around on your handle. I mean, it is going to move around a bit anyways, but just move it around on your handle just till you're happy with sort of how it's placed. And, in my case, the gathering stitches are coming a bit loose again, so I'm just going to tighten those up a bit. And then what I like to do is then secure it around the middle, and you can use your pocket sort of as a guide. And just keep checking to make sure it's even, like evenly lining up with your lining underneath. And just like, you know, you might have to play around with the gathers a bit, just so it's not bunching more in one spot than another. And then just pin it all the way across. Now I have sewn the tab on, so in a moment I'm going to show you the tab. I think what I'm going to do with the tab too is I'm going to put I'm going to do a snap. I'm still debating whether or not to just for decoration sew a button on the top or not, because those are kind of match. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see once I actually have the bag finished. And then just make sure there's enough pins in here to secure it well. And then I also like just to just kind of compare the two together to make sure it looks like they're even. And they look like they are. And you're gonna, so you see the gathers on the side where the elastic is. You can pull that elastic tighter, by the way. If you find that's too loose for you, feel free to play around with the gathers. Feel free to make that tighter. You do want to do that before you secure this down, though. Sort of like always test as you go kind of thing. So I made the tab, as you can see there. I'm going to have to, I basted it down. I just noticed that one of the edges has come up already. So I'm going to go back and just secure that slightly before I hand stitch this. And what I did is I did test out where the placement, and then I marked it with tailor's chalk, and then I sewed it down, but it didn't come over far enough apparently. And then the tab comes around to the front here, so that I'm just going to pin it in place right now because I don't have the snap on there yet. Just want to show you that having that tab on there, and also it looks like it's small. There is quite a bit of room in here for all of your stuff. And trust me, I put a lot of stuff in my purse. So I have the tab pinned in place there. And what that does is if you put your bag down like this, stuff isn't going to fall out. If you know, well, my elastic's a little bit tight on the side, or loose on the sides. I might tighten that up. But yeah, stuff should not be falling out because the tab is holding the handles in place, as opposed to without the tab. And I'm going to add a tab to this after the fact, but you put it down and it's loose, and it could end up like that. It could end up like that. It could end up like that when you put it down. With the tab on it, you know, it's keeping stuff inside. You could also, if you actually, you know what I'm gonna do, because I like the look of the loose gather here, I think I'm gonna put 2 additional snaps there and there. That's what I'm gonna do, because I do like how the sides are looking right now. So rather than tighten them up, because I don't want to tighten it up, I am gonna put a couple of these snaps here and here, just for additional closure. That's exactly what I'm going to do. Okay, so the next thing we need to do, just unpin that, is we need to hand stitch the handles down to the lining. Now, when you're doing that, be careful that you are not poking through to the outside of the bag. Hand stitch your this to the lining. And now that you have basted the lining down, it will make it stronger. So, you know, the handles aren't going to be pulling the lining away from anything. And then after you've done that, then you can pull out your gathering stitches. So I suggest you don't have to, but I suggest you use a somewhat matching thread. That is what I use to sew up my everything. My the interior of this, I use beige because of the beige lining, but my the dress in bolero, and that's also why I chose the beige lining, is it matches my bolero. Everything is sewn with this thread, so that is why I'm using it to match this. So I'm now going to go ahead and hand sew both these sides, and I'll be right back. Well, hello. Finished bag. So there's a few threads I'm seeing a couple threads I missed when I was trimming them off when I was sewing. That's kind of one of the things that bugs me when I see other people sewing videos when they don't trim their threads. It drives me nuts. Anyways, so yeah, there's a couple here I missed. So finished bag. I'm gonna do buttons. Do your buttonhole now. I ended up doing snaps in my case. I'm still debating whether or not I do have one button here that is 2 buttons here that are 3 buttons, 4 buttons here that are similar colors. So by the way, I'm not associated at all to this company on Etsy, but Red Poppy Crafting has amazing buttons over on YouTube, or on Etsy. Actually, they have a whole bunch of sewing notions on Etsy. Highly recommend them. There was a couple of buttons here. Oh, that one's kind of groovy. It looks like a flower. There's this one, which is actually more like a flower. And oh, yeah. So I'm gonna sew this button on. I'll do it later. You don't need to see me doing that right now. So I'm gonna sew that button on just to finish it off. And there you have it. You have a bag that you can match your whatever garment you've made. Again, the tab just stops it from, when you put your bag down, it's just going to stop it from opening up. So yeah, you can literally use up the scraps from whatever you've made and make a purse that's going to match what you're making. You can get these handles anywhere. Sewing stores have them, different kinds, maybe not always bamboo, but you can get them on, I know I found these on, pretty sure I found these on Etsy. I have found round ones on eBay. There's tons of places online where you can buy these. You can buy the plastic ones, the rounder ones. I actually have a resin what's it called? A resin mold to make handles. So I'm probably gonna at some point make my own handles, but yeah, look how cute this is. And there's like tons of room in here. I can get a lot of stuff in these bags. And then this is the smaller one. So you can see the difference. There's like a few inches on either side. And I actually fully intended on making a tab for this with this matching fabric, but I just realized that the fabric I used for this purse was exactly enough to make this purse. So I don't actually have any more of this fabric, but I have the pink, which is very close to the shorts that I'm making. I have pink left over, so I might do a pink tab. I think that would be cute. Or I might have some green fabric left over from another project, but I am going to make a tab for that. I just have to find a fabric that matches. So there you go. There is a purse that you can make to match all of your garments. I hope that tutorial made sense. Again, all the information will be over on Patreon to assist you. If you are somebody that does need to print off a PDF to follow as you're sewing, that will be over on Patreon. Happy sewing. And I've returned. So I hope you found that tutorial easy to follow. I hope you make your bags. Please hashtag me or tag me on Instagram if you do. Actually, make sure you are tagging me on Instagram for anything that you make in this capsule wardrobe. Okay, so there's the accessory. I am going to make belts also for my dresses, but there are probably way better tutorials out there than what I'm going to show you because I sort of just, when it comes to belts, I just quickly put them together. And I'm going to be making some resin belt buckles, hopefully soon, for, maybe not for these belts, because I have a bunch of, I don't know, 3 or 4 vintage belt buckles hanging around that I'm going to use up. But, like, Tasha Could Make That has an amazing belt tutorial. And then over on Instagram, I'm trying to remember what her new name is over there. Well, it's newish. I know her shop is Craft Kraken. I can't remember what her... You know what? I'll tag it below. Allie has a really, really amazing, easy to follow belt tutorial as well. So I'll link it below. I can't remember what her Instagram is off the top of my head right now. So yes, if you liked this video or this type of video, please give me a like, thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed, if you're brand new and this is your first video, or you've watched videos but you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. Every single one helps me out. Also, comment below. Let me know what other kinds of accessories you'd like to see me make in the future. And tell all your friends. So until the next video, stay kitschy.